Mary Aldred is a moderate Liberal MP who spoke up in favour of net zero during the party's marathon meeting on Wednesday and has a marginal seat. I spoke to her a short time ago. Mary Aldred, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
You were one of the MPs who spoke in favour of keeping the net zero by 2050 commitment within the Liberal party room. You're well known for that. How do you feel about this outcome?
Well, I'm not going to go into, what was discussed in the party room, but I will say what I've said for quite a while now, and that I think we've got three objectives in setting Australia's energy policy, and I think they need to run in this order: reliability, affordability and sustainability. Now, net zero is a framework to be able to address sustainability, but it's not the only one, and I have a huge problem with the way this Labor government is rolling out its net zero policy and the impact that that's having on households and also regions like mine that are having renewable projects running roughshod over communities.
OK, so do you think net zero by 2050 should be achieved?
If it can be, that's terrific, but we've got to be able to take account of the cost and reliability issues. And right now, this government's emissions efforts are flatlining. I think it's important to look at not just what people say, but what they do. The previous coalition government was able to reduce emissions by 28% on 2005 levels while having growth in the economy. This government's put $75 billion into those efforts and failed, and it's also failing on cost and reliability.
OK, so I understand the critique of the government's plan, but wouldn't you have preferred for the Liberal Party to stay committed to net zero by 2050?
Look, it's one way to be able to address emissions reductions, but it's certainly not the only one. And I'm really pleased that we've committed to staying in the Paris Agreement. I think that provides for good flexibility. It's an international treaty, but it allows each country to be able to go in their own way at their own pace. And right now we've got a cost of living crisis. The renewable rollout in regional communities is having a very big impact on a number of areas. And so we've got to be able to account for those three objectives, not forgetting those first two.
OK, but you'll have set objectives, but how about if you backslide? I mean, that's not what Paris is about. You have to actually be reducing emissions. How can you do that if you're putting more coal into the system?
Well, what we don't want to see is what I think the Teals and other activist groups are doing right now, which is effectively spooking state governments into underwriting coal-fired power station operators like they're doing in New South Wales with Origin and Eraring, like they're probably about to do in Victoria. Because there's this rushed renewables rollout, state governments are worried the lights are going to go out. So I want to see coal-fired power stations operate to the end of their engineering life. And here in the Latrobe Valley, we had 4. We've now got 3. Your Lawn Power Station alone is providing 22% of Victoria's baseload electricity. Now, that's due to shut in the next couple of years, and I'm really not convinced that there is an adequate plan to supplement the energy that will leave, the electricity that will leave the grid when that closes. So I think, we need to have a nuanced, rational conversation here that accounts for a number of things.
You faced a Climate 200 independent at this year's election. They got a solid share of first preference votes. Your seat is very marginal. Surely you're worried about how this policy lands in a seat like yours.
Well, I never take any day in this job for granted, and my number one goal is always to represent the views and aspirations of my electorate. Climate 200 funded one of the most expensive campaigns anywhere in Australia, here in Monash, with the Teal candidate who actually ran third. We had Labor on the ascendancy nationally, an incumbent independent recontesting as well, and I was able to achieve a small swing to the Liberal Party. So my seat is marginal. I work very hard every day to listen to my community, and that is why I'm putting forward a strong view that we need to be able to meet those objectives of reliability, affordability and sustainability.
But no one's going to believe that the Liberal Party takes climate change seriously now that you're saying you're not going to work towards getting to net zero by 2050.
Well, I think we've got a better track record on this issue than the current Labor government. We were able to achieve emissions reductions in a practical way without ruining the economy last time we were in government, and that's what we're on track to be able to develop with our policy process now. But the reality is we're in opposition, and the scale and pace of technology developments over the next couple of years will be profound. I'd like to see all options on the table, from carbon capture and storage to private investment in nuclear options in a modern sense. We've got to obviously lift the moratorium and set the regulatory framework for that investment to happen. But this is where I think we need all hands on deck, all options open.
Don't you concede, though, that this sends a message, particularly to lots of new people on the electoral roll, younger voters, that the Liberal Party doesn't actually get it on climate change?
I think voters are pretty clever, and I was in South Gippsland yesterday in Foster, which is near the southernmost point of mainland Australia, talking to a vast range of people in my community of all ages, and they get that we need to do things in a more sustainable way. I think that's an Australian value, to want to do our fair share. We all get that, but I'm also talking to small business owners, to younger people aspiring to own their first home, to farmers doing it really tough right now. And they don't want to see sections of the community like mine carrying all of the burden in this trajectory and receiving very little of the benefit.
Last month, you told the Liberal Party room to stop the infighting, saying you were disappointed with Andrew Hastie's resignation from the front bench. There's still a lot of undermining of Susan Lee. What's your message to your colleagues?
Well, I'm getting on with my job in my electorate. I work as part of a really strong coalition team in this region at a state and federal government level. The Liberal Party is the only party in Australia to represent people from all walks of life, whether you live in a regional area or an urban area. And so in that sense, I think perhaps we have a higher benchmark to achieve in being able to set a balanced approach to all policy areas. But I'm getting on with my job in my community. I think Susan's doing a great job. We've got a very strong team, and we have to defeat this government because it is a very bad government. Australia is way off track, and I will do everything I can to play my part in heading towards the next federal election.
What would the message be to the electorate if the Liberal Party rolls Susan Lee?
I will continue getting on with my job as the local representative to the people of Monash. I will work my heart out for them every single day, and I think all of my colleagues are doing exactly the same thing in their communities.
Thanks for your time, Mary.
Thanks so much, Patricia.